And so you tell me that, what does a low bar look like for a youth pastor? What is a low bar?
Wow. A low bar. Well,
yeah,
I think in a lot of ways, sometimes, I mean, you coming into a church, especially a young youth pastor, you see the bar really lowered in expectations for you. And that's the concern. I mean, we're seeing a lot of that. And also the problem is that people are accepting it. They're accepting the low bar of like, oh, well, you're just a flaky, young, fresh out of college guy, gal. You just kind of hang out with kids, you play dodgeball, you eat some pizza, and maybe you read a Bible verse to them before you go home. And I think there really needs to be a bar of expectation that raised, but also we need to raise our own expectation and our professionalism, showing that we are not just, I mean, you and I have been talking about it. 28 years, 30 years doing this. This is a profession. This is not just a quick thing we do because we can't figure out what we want to do with the rest of our lives. And so as I'm coming into a new church, we really want to raise the bar to the top. And I tell a lot of people, I talked to my young youth director I just hired, and I said, hey, there's a difference between perfection and excellence, that we need to bring excellence into our ministry. I'm not expecting perfection. And that's where we need to be.
So where have you seen this on a local level? Where have you seen a low bar? What would you consider low bar practices? And I'll jump into something else you said earlier, but just give me some examples of what you're looking at across the playing field of youth ministry, what you would consider low bar activities, or you know what I mean? Yeah. Low bar principles, or low bar practices, if you will.
For sure. I think one of the things that really is it's a kind of a joke among senior pastors and honestly other staff members, but across the board is the youth pastor that's flaky, that forgets appointments, shows up late to things, doesn't dress professionally, doesn't return emails, sends out emails without, correction, grammar, gets up on a Sunday morning and doesn't talk like an adult, talks like a kid, tries to use, hip, cool terms with the senior adults doing announcements. And all those things just set you up for losing respect in front of everybody else. And I see it all the time, and I laugh about it. I coach young youth pastors, and I say, I'm not trying to change who you are, but you have to understand your context of ministry. When you're talking to students, you can act just like a student, you act like kind of a little bit like a student, you can be kind of more relaxed. But when you're a professional and you're in front of adults that are professionals, you need to act in accordance. I mean, I think a great way that I learned this really quickly is I was youth pastor for 2 years in Washington, D.C., about 9 miles from the Pentagon. My senior pastor walked in and said, you are now at a higher expectation because of who you minister to. These kids' parents are lieutenant colonels, generals coming from the Pentagon. They walk in this building in their military blues. They're expecting to see you in some semblance of respect and professionalism. You sitting here in flip-flops and cut off shorts is not going to cut it for a guy who just left, the Pentagon to come have a meeting with you about his child. And that, to me, really raised the bar for me and my expectations, but it's based on context. I was a youth pastor in Louisiana for many years ago, and it's a different expectation. I mean, I'm talking to guys coming straight off the farm, walking in. I want to be a professional. I will raise the bar in my expectations for them and for myself, but it's a different expectation. I mean, they're not expecting me to be in a shirt and tie like some churches have required, but it's understanding what the bar is. And that's a huge thing. One of the conversations I had recently with a group of youth pastors is understanding expectations. The biggest thing, frustration, anger, disappointment in your ministry on your side, but also in the side of your parents, your staff, is going to be not understanding and not clearly articulating what you're expecting or what's expected of you.
Yeah, such a good point, Dan, because the area context matters. What is high level in Louisiana is not high level in Washington, D.C., right?
Absolutely.
And in Washington, look, these are folks, you were serving folks that could drop a bunker buster on your house if you wanted,
yes.
if they wanted, if their kid was not getting proper attention, right?
It could happen,
Your house could get strafed, just as a warning.
This is a warning,
that you need to let my child come on the retreat.
Yeah.
Why
did you cut my daughter from the worship team? Had that conversation.
That's right. And you got people with black sunglasses and earpieces showing up, just driving past your house, just reporting on things. But
I'm not allowed to talk about that anymore.
That's right. There's a lot of things we're not allowed to talk about. That's right. Not allowed to talk about things. We don't talk about that anymore. So in putting that in context, wherever you're at, and you're watching this, youth pastors, and you're listening to this, wherever you serve, you need to figure out what the expectation is, and then go up a little bit higher.
Yep.
Right? You say, look, this is what the expectation is. I'm going to go one more further.